I do get these pretty tight. You know, there's the 2-finger rule, 1-finger rule. I know he's a hard rider. I know he's gonna pack a boot out.
It's best to add instead of tighten the boot more. Your toes are gonna be happy.
I'm thinking today's vlog, we should probably talk boots again. We're getting so many questions. Everybody's got a comment about boot fitting. What boots should I buy? So yeah, let's talk boots today.
Where's that going?
Vancouver.
What are we shipping?
Actually, the last one.
Sweet.
Winter must be coming.
32 arrived. We have some Vans in. Nidecker's here. I believe we have some Burton Photons. So there's options. What I think we'll do, you know, I can even grab a Team 2. And then maybe we'll do a fitting with Hylas. We haven't, it hasn't started the full-on early season, but I want to get this out again just so people have a good vibe on what they should be looking for when you go into a store to get a boot fitting. Kind of the first few things you should hear from that team. And if you're not hearing that from those folks, maybe you should be looking at a different store. Things you should see in the store would be heat molding capabilities, obviously. Things like insoles, because we're probably pulling the insoles out of most of these boots. It's not that the companies do a bad job, it's just brands like Remine do a way better job, and it is almost 60% of all my fitting involves some kind of upgrade. So we're gonna keep that in mind. They should have a Brannock. Where is my Brannock? I have no idea. Here it is. Also crazy important, if this isn't part of the conversation almost immediately, go find a different shop. This is also something you're not going to get buying boots on the internet, so please keep that in mind. Buy your boots in a store, or we'll FaceTime you and give you a hand, but without this and without your foot getting on one of these, shell tests, yes, are super useful. This is even more important. So let's just, yeah, if you're not seeing one of these in the equation when you're going in for your boots, that's a problem. You're gonna have riding specific socks. You're gonna be pulling these socks tight all the way up. You're gonna make sure nothing's bunching. All of the riding socks are gonna be a little bit thinner up top. First layer is also kind of part of this equation. Don't tuck all that into the mess. You're gonna have everything bunch up in the upper layer of the sock. Then when you wrap your tongue and everything around that boot, you're gonna get pressure points that are just unnecessary. So let's be really, really conscious of how our socks are and the ergonomics of our socks too. Another part of the boot fitting, like I mentioned earlier, the heat molding. There's these neoprene little toe caps we use. This is gonna blow out the toe box a little more. We're not always sizing you down, but we're gonna wanna get, because there's always gonna be pack out. These are materials that still expand with heat. So we are gonna wanna do a certain amount of, you know, performance fitting to a point where this is probably gonna be a necessary part of the equation. That's gonna go over your bare foot, sock goes on, and then we actually heat the liner, foot goes in, and there's a little bit of lunge pressuring too, just to expand that toe box and blow these out. So again, if you're not seeing these things upon the first 10 minutes of talking with the shop about boots, like I say, find a different shop. So with Hylas here, it's gonna help. I can kind of show you guys, and we'll boot fit you into a pair of Team 2. That's the boot I run. So we're gonna use the Brannock, and I want to get Hylas's foot on here. There is a lot of adjustments. Arch length is not good. It is important, but you don't need to worry about that so much. Also, ours doesn't have the Mondo setting, which is good and bad. We're set up, this is in US sizing. For the most part, that's gonna be fine. I have another Brannock around here somewhere that will have Mondo, which is more in centimeters, where you can really just get the finite measurements you may need, especially when I'm performance fitting somebody that's, say, racing a lot, a bank slalom, anything like that. That's when we'll get into those centimeters a little bit more, but...
Yeah, we always just kind of do the calculation to figure out the Mondo from the US sizing.
Yeah, and a lot of the boxes will have it too, so you can always check that. But Hylas is, you know, he's just shy of a men's 9, and I mean just. I know, given the performance riding he does, I know he likes to shift down to an 8.5, which is what we'll do. But another thing you could do, and we'll bring a shell out in a second here, is we can also shell fit him just to see. You know, there's the 2-finger rule, 1-finger rule. There's all these different things. It's really person to person. I'll shell fit myself with 1 finger in behind. Once I'm slammed to the front, shell fit is liner out, foot into shell. So I'll do so with that, but again, it's circumstantial.
It is.
A little bit more performance fitting, and it also depends on what kind of liner you have. Intuition shell fitting is much different than going to a Vans boot and shell fitting, because those guys use a bit more open cell foam. It's a thicker liner. So yeah, let's grab an 8.5 and let's. Sure. That's the decision I would have made around that right away. I would have looked. He's shy of a 9. I know he's a hard rider. I know he's going to pack a boot out quick.
As many days as I can.
So. Yeah, and you want to get a ton of days out of your boots.
That's
so
huge.
That's the other thing we want to
If
play
I
into
was
that.
twice a month, I'd probably want a more comfortable fit.
He was sitting right about there, not just over the 8.5, so we're going to come down that little bit. Some guys will even go as low as an 8. Shop got crazy there for a minute, so we're just getting back at it. I was chatting about shell fitting. Liner comes out, and we're going to kind of gauge the distance in behind your heel when you slam your front foot in there. Always when we're boot fitting too, I don't want to see anybody standing straight up and down. I want to make sure everyone's always in a compressed mode, and that's what we're actually fitting for. That's how we're riding. That's how I want us to be fitting any of our boots. So Hylas is really going to compress, and then I can get my finger in there, and I've got like 1.5, which is what I would want.
Performance fit.
You know, that's exactly. That's more of a performance fit. That's perfect. That's exactly where I want to see. 1 finger's okay too. Some people get it down to the science of measuring. You know, that inch is what, you know, some guys say is the performance fit. 1 inch behind the foot.
I've seen the little dowel people use.
People drop that dowel in, yeah. So these are an Intuition, and this is a dense liner. It's got structure to it too, which is why I love what, you know, this Collab 32 is done. We can all thank Kevin Sansalone for that. Kev, back in the day when he got on 32, just couldn't handle the liners. Intuition was out of Vancouver. Kevin went to those guys, and that partnership happened. It came together, and kudos to Kev, because that's pretty sweet. And they've been the liners in 32 ever since, and a lot of other brands. So I'm a big fan there. We also have, this is just a good example of an actual pretty half decent insole that the brand is doing. But I like to update, like there is, you know, you're looking for, you've got some structure around the heel, but it's not a very deep heel pocket. So if it fits, great, and you're on a budget, you know, run it out. But then we can start looking at things like this, which has a lot more of an instep built into it. And actually, these almost act like a memory foam, where the base of this will start to mold depending on which model you purchase. This has a profile, you know, 6 mil arch, that's a mid arch. There's a multitude, there's high arch, there's low arch. So, you know, a good boot fitter is going to be able to get into that with you and make sure we're dialing that in. Can you grab out of that box, there is the shims. Yeah, this is another, I talk about shims a lot. This is a very easy way of explaining 32's donut shims. These guys, you'll layer them up as needed. With Hylas, we'll check to see what his ankle distance is. One thing I didn't mention about the Brannock too is we can also get a foot width. Really, their C, D, and E is the average foot widths we're dealing with. I'll talk about that a little more, but that's another thing on a Brannock that I did forget to mention. I mean, it does go all the way down to A, but it's very rare. You know, most people we're seeing.
See it sometimes.
There is some skinny feet. I mean, I'm kind of like a B plus, C. But
I'm about a D, which is 32 works awesome for me.
And it's getting to know which brands are the wider fits.
So I'm right in between C and D. So it's like a medium to wide foot.
Back to those donuts. Those will drop right into here. So right into that zone, you're gonna drop those in. And Mikey, where are you going?
Home so I don't get a ticket for parking.
All right, so yeah, back to that. So we'll drop in 1 orange, 1 black on each side. Crushes us around the Achilles area a little bit. And when I say crush, I do get these pretty tight because you get that expansion. Even after 3 days of riding, you're gonna drop down in the liner a tad, and you're gonna get some expansion.
Yeah, I like starting the boot off. I usually start with 1 orange on each side, and then as you go, as the boot packs out, you can keep adding. And it's best to add instead of tighten the boot more.
That's right.
Because that's what's gonna cut the blood off. So if you can pack out the boot a little bit and get it to lock in your heel without having to crank the inner lace, your toes are gonna be happy.
We went with the double boa. Seems to be the trend these days.
I'm liking it.
I am too.
Yeah.
Last year was my first year too.
First year on the double boa. Had to figure out what all the hype was about.
When I have someone that comes in and they're looking for boots, the only time I get a little worried about boas, and the sledder community knows this, is anybody on a sled, they're transferring weight and moving their feet around so often that's when that discussion happens, where we're just like, you just gotta watch the side boa. They pop off and pop back on easy enough. But it is one thing I've seen here and there, jumping out of a snowcat, like when the guys are at BALDFACE. I've seen those catch on the staircase, getting out of the cat. Other than that, I mean, these things are bomber now. With the new lacing that everybody's using, yeah, we don't see those old issues. The metal, when there was a metal lace, every once in a while that would get cold. Internally with the original boas, sometimes components would break. We just don't see that anymore. Eh?
No.
Yeah.
And a lot easier to fix if it ever does happen
Yeah.
with the new fabric ropes.
So same thing. So Hylas will now get his foot in. I didn't ask him when he came in. I wasn't like, oh, what's your shoe size? And he tells me he's a 9 and I grabbed a 9. We go through this process. This process is important. And that's another thing, like, you really gotta, that's where buying boots online just doesn't make sense. You can't take your Nike size 9, grab a 9 Vans, grab a 932 online, and expect that you're gonna be for sure dialed. It doesn't work that way, and this is the most important thing you purchase for your snowboard.
100%.
Next would be your goggles. If your feet aren't operating properly and you can't see, you're not having a good day. But we'll get Hylas locked in, and he's gonna, for the initial try on, he's gonna lock this boot in pretty tight. Then, like I said before, I'm never gonna get him to stand straight up and down, because you actually start to pack the toe box differently, and you're slamming your toes up, which makes the boot feel tighter than it actually is. So it's very important that we're getting into that riding position. Mimic what you think your stance is. If you're -9, +18, whatever it is, mimic your stance a little bit, 45, 45.
That's a Shane stance there.
It's posy team. I love that stuff. But yeah, you want to mimic your stance, but ideally you have both boots on too, because I want him to be elevated the exact same when he's trying on.
Mm-hmm.
We're just doing this quick for, it's a vlog today. But Hylas can press down like you would. We'll see that upper cuff flex into itself too, which is the beauty about the Team 2.
This is a great boot these days.
Yeah.
Articulated cuff, double boa. They even added a little stretch on the heel. So great for split boarding, but also great for just general comfort, tweakability. I've got a pretty fat calf. That is awesome. I don't get the bruising on the calf. Love this boot.
So with the fitting now, when I'm talking to a customer, I want to make sure, we'll discuss what's happening with your Achilles. Are you getting much heel movement? Heel lift was such a big deal 10 years ago. Binding technology, a little bit of forward lean, changing the way that triangle works is also going to lock your heel in. So that's a discussion I really have to have with people. Everything's bringing you back into the binding system too and locking you in. So a little bit of heel play I don't stress out about like we did 10 years ago by any means. Pack out of an intuition liner is pretty minimal, but what we're going to do is actually achieve that in store. We're going to throw it on the stacker and we're going to heat this liner. Once we've decided toes are touching at the front, you're snug.
Yeah.
So once Hylas, he's bending his knees again, that's bringing his toe back a little bit here, giving that relief, but also laying the foot flat. Because that angle of snowboarding, we're not pulling ourselves back again. So we know the toe box is good. That's when we move on to molding. And adding, actually.
Yeah.
Adding the...
Big thing with these, they have a little extra arch. So if you think about your foot, If you lift up your arch a little bit more, it's going to help pull the toes back just slightly. Helps you get into a bit of a tighter boot. A big fan of that.
And why are we doing tighter boots? Performance, fit, and longevity.
Longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
gonna
get
last longer.
2 seasons out of a boot if I go with a nice tight fit. I've made the mistake of going for a comfort fit, 9.5, 9. 60 days in, you're shimming it out.
And we do comfort fit. There's situations with certain people that, you know, say they're here and they're riding BALDFACE for 6 days, and I know they're probably gonna fly back out of town and leave their boots.
Yeah.
I'm not slamming those individuals into a performance fit because they're not gonna blow the boot out in time, and there's always a situation where you might find that. But
There's also a few guys who bought softer, kind of POW specific boots. Last year especially, we had a few guys, and those aren't really needing to be as performance fitting because you're not riding on an icy groomer. Preferably you're on the sled or in the cat. A lot more leeway when you're only riding the best snow.
and there's no sometimes the break-in period isn't fun. Sometimes you get, you know, you're not going to get a blister or anything like that, but it's, you know, it's stiff. It might pressure your foot. You're going to feel your foot at the end of the day. Comfort fitting, you know, you get out there and you're rocking right away, but then you're usually coming back to me in a bit and we're shimming that boot as it expands too much. When you comfort fit, you're moving around a little more inside, therefore you break the shell down faster. So that's something to think about. Performance fit to comfort fit. Like Hylas said, it's longevity. That's the biggest thing we're talking about there. Another thing that's going to help your boot fitting experience is either buying a pair of socks when you get to the store, or bring your favorite riding sock. As long as it doesn't smell like Braveheart, bring those in, because it really does help me when I'm boot fitting to know the type of sock you're using. Some people are running a very, very thin, like the Burton AK sock. Some people like the Stance socks, which has a mid-cushion underfoot, which is actually really, really comfortable.
That's one of my favorite socks.
So yeah, it's going to help that experience. And again, like we talked about, you don't want any of that bunching up. You want to make sure you're pulling that really well, so the tongue, everything is just fitting in the front of your shin, absolutely clean. It's got to be clean, right?
Yeah. Nothing worse, pulling everything up above the boot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just kind of covers the basics, I think, of A, why you should go to a store for boot fitting, B, why you should leave a store if they don't seem to know how to boot fit, and why you just shouldn't be buying boots online. I mean, we want to see everybody. I know we can't sell everybody because we're in Nelson. Online is a monster that we're never going to get rid of, but the more you can help your local shops, the more that keeps the community of snowboarding happening. Totally. You know, the local shops are the ones putting on events. Local shops are the ones that are kind of feeding the culture of a zone. So I know I'm always talking about it, but it's important to me. I've been doing this a long time, and
Totally. You can sit down, you can watch some snowboard movies, and get your boot fit. It's pretty perfect. And it kind of gets everyone stoked for the season coming. The first kind of step to our season is the boots first. Everyone comes in for boots first. Start talking about boards, start talking about outerwear, but boots are number one. First thing you do.
It is boot fitting season right
It
now.
is.
That's like October.
100%.
That's what October is.
Yeah.
So yeah, stop by, shoot the shit, or leave a comment below, ask us questions. The Patreon's back, so I'm trying to be a bit more active on that. It's a lot going on. We're running shop, we're filming vlogs, we're filming the review show, we're trying to keep on top of the Patreon, so bear with us, we're on it. But yeah, hit us below with what else you want to see. There's going to be a few more vlogs coming up, so if there's anything else you guys out there are just, want to pick our brains about, we're down.
We're down.
We're always into it.
Yeah.
Fozzie should be back next week or so, and then we'll be dragging him on more of these. And yeah, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys on the next one.